You're entering Corsi Nation.
This is Jerome Corsi, and today it's Monday, May 12th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on CorsiNation.com. We're doing our broadcast here on our flagship channel, CorsiNation.com. At Corsi Jerome 1 on X, Substack JeromeCorsiPhD.substack.com. And again, we're posting on Substack almost every day. Okay, I want to begin by a couple of the stories that are leading the news today, and there's quite a bit of news today. To start with, it looks like the United States has reached a trade deal with China, which will be a 115% mutual reduction in tariffs, which will be very good for the United States, plus a mechanism to finalize it, 90-day pause before anything goes into effect. And so it looks to me like we've averted a trade war with China, although it's quite favorable for the United States, because no longer will China have an edge, which our goods are more expensive in China, and China can flood their goods here in the United States without much cost and tariffs. So right now what this means is we're going to be returning a lot of the manufacturing to the United States, and a lot of investment dollars are going to come back to the United States. It's a big win for Trump. First 100 days, we're now into the second 100 days. We have a China deal, which means that Trump's strategy with the tariffs is working. We are convincing other countries to give us a better break. Okay, now that's big news. The other news is it looks like Zelensky is going to meet in Turkey to negotiate with Russia. I don't know whether Russia's going to send Putin or not. I wouldn't send Putin. I mean, this guy, Zelensky's a clown. It's a comic, and I don't think he wants to end the war. I think the Ukrainian oligarchs like the war because there's more money, more arms, more stealing. You know, they can sell the arms off. They can steal the dollars we send to them. Oligarchs in Ukraine are completely crooked, and the Biden family, of course, wants to keep the money flowing. I'm not about the Bidens stole billions of dollars or hundreds of millions, and yet they're crying for more money. Of course, Biden is completely incompetent, and the Democrats are getting embarrassed by him continuing to go out and speak and give interviews. This Biden is going to become, the Democratic Party is committing suicide. Can't happen fast enough for me. They become a communist party, and now they become a traitorous party. The Democrats are out there supporting Venezuelan MS-13 gangs. Well, how insane can you be? They want to mutilate our children sexually before they reach the age of puberty. They want to tell little girls that they're born in the wrong bodies, that they're really boys. They want to have boys playing in girls' athletics. These people are nuts. They need to be all sent to a mental institution. I think the Democrats are completely bonko. I'll tell you. And the Pope's brother is making news today. Pope's brother turns out to be super mega. And now the left is, of course, imploding. Their heads are exploding all over the place because Pope's brother shared a video. He called Nancy Pelosi a drunken C word. You could figure that out for yourselves. And he mocked crying libs with the Trump derangement syndrome. Okay, this is the younger brother. This is a guy named like the Pope Prevost. Of course, this is the brother Prevost, and he's unapologetically MAGA. Okay, so his younger brother now is Pope, and suddenly the leftist media is digging through Lou Provost's Facebook for anything that will cancel him. They want to cancel him, and they think they found gold because he shared a video of a liberal group for those suffering derangement syndromes with "Are you distraught after the Trump win?" And it's "Watch to the end" with a lot of emojis that are laughing, and and the woman here is crying at the recent presidential elections. Poor liberal, poor little lib. Yeah, okay. Well, these people are demons. They go to hell. And here's one Nancy Pelosi that Lou Provost dug up. Younger Nancy Pelosi. She almost looks human instead of the old complete hag that she's turned into being. So this was younger Pelosi arguing for tariffs in China. This is before the Democratic Communist traitorists decided they were going to do a 180-degree flip-flop and oppose tariffs because that was part of the globalist agenda. No tariffs, free trade. Let all the manufacturing go to China so you can destroy the American middle class. That's been the aim and game of the globalists for a long time. Okay, so these he retweeted somebody who said these effing liberals are crying about tariffs is just unreal. They know that there is a thing called video. Just listen to what this drunk C-word woman referring to Pelosi has to say in the mid-90s, long before her husband had Grindr dates. Grindr, of course, is the homosexual dating site that Catholic priests were supposed to have found to be frequenting. Archbishop Vigano revealed that recently. So here we have Nancy Pelosi, and this when the leftists find this, say, "Oh boy, this is great because we can show Lou Provost to be, a mega fascist." Of course, his brother now appears to like the Catholic Mass in Latin, and the left is kind of melting down all around. Of course, I don't think this Pope Leo the 14th is going to be. I don't think he's quite Francis 2.0, which is what the left wanted, but I don't think he's going to be Benedict either. He's going to be, I think, more sympathetic towards the synodal movement, more sympathetic to LGBT, more sympathetic to abortion. Okay, we've got to wait a little bit until we see what he does and what he says. But again, I think the left media is going to be pushing him to be Francis 2.0. Let's see how he reacts. Let's see how long he lives in the papacy, depending upon which way he goes. I'm not overly confident that we've got a better deal in got what we wanted in any way with regards to this Pope. But we'll wait and see a little bit. We'll wait and see. Okay, I want to play a Jesse Waters has a tape. Chris, if we can get that ready to go, I'd like to play this Jesse Waters segment, which Liberty Daily is saying is his most non-Fox-like ever. Well, he's telling the truth. Of course, Fox has now gone globalist too, and they won't have me on. I'm not going to appear at Fox anymore because they won't ask me. That they don't want anything that isn't anti-Trump, but just with a little tiny veneer of yet the conservatives. But it's not what it used to be. That's for sure. Okay, so Chris, let's play this segment because I think it's really important that we share what's really going on here with the MAGA group and Jesse Waters revealing what the truth is about Epstein. Let's go ahead and roll. Then come on and comment.
So,
okay, let's go.
Why do we still know nothing about him? Well, we're finding out tonight some answers. The Wall Street Journal just got its hands on Jeffrey Epstein's private calendar, and it was a lot more suspicious than Brett Kavanaugh's. Epstein was meeting with the kind of people you'd think would steer clear of a convicted pedophile. Jeffrey Epstein was meeting with one of Barack Obama's top lawyers, Catherine Rumler. She met with Epstein dozens of times. Epstein even tried to set up Obama's lawyer to work for Bill Gates. How is Jeffrey Epstein a fixer between Obama's lawyer and Bill Gates? Epstein was also meeting with Joe Biden's CIA director. He wasn't CIA director at the time. He was Barack Obama's deputy secretary of state. William Burns was working for John Kerry at the State Department and meeting with Jeffrey Epstein, a known pedophile. And then Burns becomes CIA director. Today's director of the CIA went to Epstein's Manhattan townhouse where Epstein had sex with underage girls and, where he filmed other men having sex with underage girls. And William Burns went there and was then promoted to the director of the CIA. Now, I wonder if the future CIA director saw the portrait of Bill Clinton in a blue dress hanging in Epstein's parlor room. A few years later, Epstein was arrested and then hung himself in a jail cell while security cameras just happened to not be working. And the replacement guards just happened to fall asleep. And 2 years later, Biden just happens to pick William Burns to run the CIA. So what are we supposed to think? It's never been more clear. Epstein was an intelligence asset. Not only was he working for the CIA, Israeli intelligence, maybe even Russia intelligence. So is the American government allowing an asset to traffic and molest teenage girls all over the world for intelligence? Were we allowing Epstein to commit crimes against children for blackmail material? Well, we asked the CIA director, William Burns, why were you meeting with a convicted pedophile at his disgusting townhouse? And the CIA director said this: the director did not know anything about him, other than that he was introduced as an expert in the financial services sector and offered general advice on transition to the private sector. They had no relationship.
Right.
So Obama's State Department official couldn't have asked anybody else in the entire country for help with a job in finance? He could have called any CEO, any hedge fund manager, any banking director. But he meets with Jeffrey Epstein, a guy that doesn't even really have a real business, a guy that doesn't even have a website, a guy that, as far as we know, only had one client, the CEO of Victoria's Secret. That doesn't add up, Bernsey. And this explains the sweetheart deal back in 2006. This explains the prison cell cover-up. And this explains why all the Epstein tapes went missing. Everything Epstein recorded, everything, missing. Every property he owned. But when he died, the Fed seized all the tapes, and the only person who's ever been arrested since then was the Madam Maxwell.
Jeffrey Epstein found me almost immediately. He knew exactly where I was, the location. And I knew then that I was being filmed. I was being watched 24/7. There were cameras all over the island.
So the CIA has all the sex tapes, and they've been blackmailing like crazy. This is the blackmail jackpot. Hours of video starring the world's most important people in Epstein Island, in the Manhattan townhouse, and the Palm Beach estate, and the New Mexico ranch. Bill Clinton was good pals with Jeffrey. Flew on
Bill
the
Clinton
Lolita Express 26
getting a
times.
back rub
Went to his private island.
for some woman.
So when someone does something that
At
doesn't
airport.
make any sense, maybe it's because they don't want to be doing what they're doing. Maybe it's because someone's telling them what to do and threatening to release the tapes if they don't.
So yes, where are the tapes? Where are the tapes? That's what Jesse Waters was saying. Where are the tapes? Well, this is going to become a problem increasingly for Pam Bondi and for Kash Patel if they don't get these tapes out. Also, Dan Bongino. Bongino seems to be tweeting regularly these days saying, "Oh, don't worry, we're doing things. Don't worry, things are happening. We just have to get organized." Yeah, well, I think they can organize till hell freezes over. But if we don't start getting some real investigations and some indictments, some things happening, Donald Trump doesn't seem to have any trouble getting things to happen. Why is Pam Bondi over there sitting around doing nothing? That's going to be the question people are going to be asking increasingly. Okay, and there's also a story leading in Gateway Pundit today where it's saying totally worthless. The GOP-controlled House and Senate sent fewer bills to the GOP president than any Congress in 70 years. Well, that's true. Trump won a landslide election in 2024, winning the presidency with 312 electoral votes, all of the battleground states and the popular vote. The U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate and 2750 counties across the country, which is the vast majority of them, except for the Democratic city hellholes. They always vote Democratic to get more money from the government because they can't produce economic activity. The Democrats don't know how to do anything but destroy. Okay, so what this means is that the House controlled, the U.S. House and Senate controlled by the GOP, and we're not getting anything done. Well, again, you got too many rhinos and never Trumpers in Congress, and they've been paid too much money by lobbyists and other interests, probably by the Democrats in this U.S. aid scandal and the Act Blue, which is going to be coming much more uncovered in the near future. So we're seeing that basically the narrow margins, which I think are a direct function of the voter fraud. And I want to go back to gods5stones.com because we've got an announcement there too. We're finding that we're getting more and more reports. I'm going to publish a new article this week on Wisconsin, as we found the algorithmic secret code that's in the voter registration database in Wisconsin. It's the first time we've surfaced this algorithmic code that identifies two records with the voters, each the same voter, identical personal information, but two different voter IDs. So the same voter can vote twice. And the data we have from Wisconsin shows that they have been voting twice in recent elections, including 2020. So this is now breakthrough news. The big announcement that's been, we did a press release last week. General Michael Flynn and attorney Peter Tickton, who is President Trump's attorney, also working with us on the voter fraud. Both of these are going to be working with us. Both gentlemen are going to be working with me more actively at gods5stones.com. We're pressing for endgame. And endgame, I think, here is that Donald Trump is going to say that our computers of the state boards of election have been penetrated by foreign countries. Clearly, someone put these algorithms in the computers. That's at the root of the voter registration base itself. And we know that the computers that tally the votes send the data overseas. So it's clearly, oh no, it's not on the internet. That I've said, oh no, not on the internet. Yeah, well, that's all BS. Every single thing the left says, if Nancy Pelosi is moving her lips, she's lying. Chuck Schumer moves his lips, he's lying. Okay, just take that for granted. Say, why are they lying? Well, they're lying because they hate America. They want power. They want money. They want to have all these schemes where they're stealing from the federal treasury. And by the way, that's why we've got going on to a $34 trillion debt, which is unsustainable. But to finish this off, what are the voter registration data? And Chris, I want you to come on and comment on everything we covered, all the, Epstein and the Democratic rotten core pedophilia at the center, and supporting pedophilia, promoting pedophilia, having got open borders to encourage unaccompanied minors to come across the border so that they can be picked up and put into sex slavery or sex trade or slave labor. These people would do damage to children, are evil. Who would take an innocent child and ruin their lives by separating them from the parents and putting them in the sex trade? Democrats, that's who would do it. Epstein. Chris?
Filthy, self-congratulatory, self-protecting Democrat Pauls. Yes.
Yeah. And the other part of it is they lie about it, and then they cover up the information. Well, Pam Bondi had better get these tapes released. You better get something released here pretty soon, or we'll replace her.
Well, hopefully they're careful and they come out with ironclad evidence.
Yeah, just like Bill Barr and Durham and all these other guys did. And
I'm with you, but here's what happens. You put out information, the media will be in lockstep. They will try and they'll use that whole fake debunking thing. As you know, when something comes out and it's generally the truth, you'll see every fact checker, every liberal or left-leaning fact checker under the sun try to tell you it's debunked by twisting the words around just a little bit. So you're going to see this. If any information is released, you're going to see the news, the mainstream media, NPR, if you will, as well, and a lot of these left-leaning blogs and so-called fact checkers try to debunk it by twisting words around quickly to taint the potential jury pool.
Well, I want to go right to the economics, and again, I think we're seeing how the Democratic Party is rotten to the core, and the American people are rejecting it soundly. Gold is trading today at $3,222 an ounce. It's down a little bit after the trade deal in China. Suddenly, everybody thinks, "Oh, the economy's coming back." The sky isn't falling after all. So I'm sure the stock market should go up today, based on the news. Although sometimes it goes in reverse. Good news, they sell on good news. We'll have to see what happens here. But at any rate, we are in a position right now of seeing gold staying above $3,000 an ounce. Now, in terms of the future economy, I want to talk about July 2025, which is coming up. Is going to be an historically important month for gold. Okay, because what's shaping up are a couple of events that are coming together that are really unique in our lifetimes. The first event is that the full enforcement of the Basel III global banking regulations. These were developed in response to the 2008 worldwide financial crisis that was caused by the crash of the subprime real estate market. So beginning in July 1, 2025, according to these new rules, the United States is going to adopt gold as a tier 1 asset under the Basel III regulations. Okay, this reclassifies this reclassifies gold from the previous tier 3 level. Under tier 3, banks could only count 50% of the value of the gold on their books as an asset. Under tier 1, the banks can value gold as an asset at 100% of its market value. Okay, with gold sustaining highs over $3,000 an ounce, this change will open the floodgates to U.S. banks previously discouraged from holding gold as an asset. Okay, so these tier 1 rules incentivize banks to hold physical gold. Under the new regulations, paper gold held by the banks can only be booked as an asset if the paper gold is backed by 85% real gold holdings. Okay, so banks book gold as real gold. They have been banking paper gold as real gold, though they do not own the gold. But now with banking institutions will view gold as having the same value as cash, but only if it's physical, unencumbered, and fully allocated. No more just trust us paper games. U.S. banks have been leveraging gold paper 100 to 1 for years, but this rule effectively ends that game. Okay, so the World Gold Council has been reporting that central banks have added something like 1,045 tons to global gold reserves. And partly that's in reaction to the sanctions against Russia, in which Russian reserves were confiscated, foreign exchange reserves, after Russia invaded Ukraine. But also, this is going to, stimulate what has ended up to be a 15 consecutive years of central banks buying more gold. Okay, so it's always been on the upcrease 15 years, and this is going to stimulate it further. Okay, so it's imaginable with these new rules that gold could be trading as high as, I think, $4,500 in the first quarter of 2026. That's what Goldman Sachs says. Okay, and I think that's going to be a massive change in banking regulations, and it shows the death of the fiat currencies is coming, because the governments around the world have just stacked up too much debt. And as a consequence, just like the United States has, as a consequence, the world is turning back to gold's standard for its currency. The other major development, July 6th to 7th this year, just in a few weeks, the BRICS member nations are going to kick off their 2025 summit meeting in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. And the BRICS was originally founded by Brazil, Russia, India, and China. But now these emerging BRIC nations have expanded to 11 members and 9 partners. And the BRICS have defined the world as now a multipolar configuration that emphasizes economics instead of ideology. So with the Trump administration reimposing tariffs on China, threatening a trade war, and the sanctions, against countries for political reasons, the BRICS nations are exploring the creation of a gold-backed currency known as, which basically is known as a unit. But if the BRICS have a gold-backed currency, that's going to fundamentally change the dynamics of international trade. Now, there are some 40 countries that want to join the BRICS, and what's happening is there's a global shift to bypass the dollar, according to the SWIFT, which is the international system that's used by the United States for international payments. You're seeing that China's yuan is now used in 4.1% of international payments in March 2025. It's still a far cry from the dollar's 49% global reach, but the dollar is down from a previous 90% global reach. Okay, so in what we're seeing that China has a cross-borders interbank payment system, which is going to use the digital yuan, where SWIFT takes 3 to 5 days to close a trade internationally. This Chinese system can do it in a matter of seconds. Okay, so we're seeing a seismic shift here that is moving us towards the dollar being ultimately backed again by gold. If the dollar lives at all, I mean, we're paying $1 trillion right now in interest earnings on the national debt, and that takes about all the money we get from income taxes put together just to pay the debt on our the interest on our national debt. Now, this is why I'm encouraging people, and I'm imploring you, please take a look at all the Swiss America that we have on the website. Get a copy of this free book. Chris is going to put up the number here in a minute, which is how you can get, basically how coming global crash, and the crash is coming with all of this fiat currency going to implode with the amount of debt that's been accumulated. And this global crash is going to create a historic gold rush. We're in the middle of it right now. You get a free copy of this book by calling Swiss America 1-800-519-6268. Write this number down, 1-800-519-6268. Okay, and also on Swiss America's website, and we link to it and CorsiNation.com. Please go through our portal so Swiss America knows where your call originated. But if I want you to get, I'm asking you to get a self-directed IRA and 401k. If you've got IRAs and 401ks, there's no reason you should have them all invested in the stock market. Stock market is still going to be very, very much of a yo-yo for a while. And I think it could trade as low as 35,000. It was headed there, except for the actions that Trump is taking. Okay, now a self-directed IRA that Swiss American can set up for you so it's legal and follows the rules, so you continue to get tax-deferred appreciation, can be set up with you'll get a Delaware depository where the physical gold and silver will be held, and a Lloyd's of London insurance contract that the gold and silver are really there. Okay, this way you can take at least some of your IRAs and 401ks and get an asset you know is going to appreciate. If you're in mutual funds, take a look and see. I bet you're in mutual funds that invest in the stock market. They're volatile. So we can always switch into a different of the family of funds that's in bonds. Well, bonds are also under duress because the credit rating of the United States has already once been downgraded. And that's a warning sign that the United States is not sure that we're going to be able to meet our liabilities. In other words, paying the interest on the debt. Why we're doing the Federal Reserve with this modern monetary theory, which says we're a sovereign nation. That's what the left loves, and we can just print fiat currency ad infinitum until we're, drunken sailors with money that was made out of nothing. Well, the point is that money is eventually going to come to roost. The point is also that if we have a fiat currency, it's going to collapse. And if you're in the stock market or the bond market, because even our bonds are having to be sold now at a discount because we're just paying off the debt with new treasury bonds that are being issued with a further inflated currency. Okay, so this is not, the Trump is doing some things like getting a trade deal with China, which are very positive. But again, the fundamental economic structure here is got some deep, deep systemic problems. And these systemic problems are not going to go away overnight. If you get to gold and silver, look at gold and silver realistically, you can see the world making changes which could take gold and silver to becoming $10,000 an ounce. I can see it happening in the next few years. You say, well, how's that possible? Well, only a short while ago, late last year, I was saying this is going to happen, and gold was at $1,800 an ounce, struggling to get over $2,000 an ounce. Well, now gold is over $3,000 an ounce and probably headed to $4,000 an ounce. Okay, so you've got to take these things into consideration, and do talk to Swiss America. They are consultative selling. I've been with them for over 20 years now, and they're a reliable company that has had a stellar reputation, and they trade in real gold and silver. If you act now, you can still, as a first-time customer, not only set up a self-directed IRA that can invest in gold and silver, but you get advantage of this special Walking Liberty $50 offer where you can get 250 of these coins at virtually the price that they're worth in silver. They're almost 99% silver. You've got to start owning some gold and some silver because that's what's going to appreciate. And you can do it. You don't have to be a millionaire to do this. You can take the assets you have and reorient them, redistribute them, so they're going to be in things that appreciate, not things that are losers. Okay, also if you like this show, go to our sponsors, My Vital C, which is one of our major sponsors. I'm taking My Vital C. It's carbon 60, a remarkable molecule that's an antioxidant, has anti-aging properties to it. And if you take a look at the myvitalc.com website, you're going to see there's also hair creams, there's skin creams, there's products for cats and dogs. And if you read about My Vital C, I've also written a book with Chris Burries, who is a senior officer and the chief research scientist at My Vital C. The book is Live Longer and Better. And you get a copy of it too on the website. Okay, so these are the products. Chris is showing them to you now on the screen. I take them every day, and I can swear by them. There's Live Longer and Better, the book. Take a look at myvitalc.com. I really think you'll like both of these products. Okay, I want to cover a few more stories before we wrap up. I don't think that there's going to be much progress in the Turkey negotiations with Zelensky and Russia. So I think Zelensky is determined to throw a monkey wrench into him so he can continue the war. And by the way, there was a meeting in a train of Macron was going to Ukraine by train with one of the German officials, another person, that they were in this car in the train, and it looked like there was a little bag of cocaine on the table, which Macron quickly snatched away once he saw it there. It's one of those guilty moves. Think Macron's using cocaine? Well, he's married to a man. Who knows what else he's doing? Europe is widely known that Macron married an older man, not a woman. It's widely known. It's bizarre, but in fact, it's the case. Okay, so let's track a couple of other stories here, and I'm finding that the Russia-Ukraine large-scale drone fired. So there's still a drone war going on between Russia and Ukraine, and again, if Ukraine doesn't come to its senses, Putin will just take Kiev, and that'll be the end of Ukraine. And of course, the NATO will lose its mind. Heads will explode in NATO. The globalists here won't be able to handle it. But I think we're seeing the beginning of the end of the EU, NATO, and the United Nations. And to get that to happen, all the United States has to do is quit funding NATO. It will go away. Quit funding the Ukraine war. Quit funding Ukraine. They'll have to come to peace. And quit funding the United Nations. It'll probably run out of cash in 2 months. Okay, so these are things that we can do that are tools that Donald Trump can implement without having to rely on Congress. And with the difficulty in Congress of having, such tied up problems in terms of getting legislation passed. And Trump is going to do everything to get this one big, beautiful, as he says, budget bill passed. Well, I think that is extremely positive. But again, with the Democrats stealing votes like the Democrats have done, these algorithms have been in the databases, in some cases 2004 and 2007. I just can't believe that the margins are this close. I think a lot of Democrats since 2004 and 2007 have been being elected by algorithms, not by the people. Okay, so by the way, it's interesting. Qatar is giving a gift from the royal family to a modern 747-8 to be outfitted as Air Force One. Boeing can't deliver Trump's Air Force One. Of course, Boeing is DEI. I mean, the heads of they got women in dresses running Boeing. Well, Boeing used to be a great airline maker. Well, today I wonder, the doors fall off Boeing airplanes. Wonder why. Okay, so we're going to see a lot in terms of what's happening in Congress this week on this nature of this bill and it getting through on the taxes, including Trump wants to put in a tax raise for the rich, which of course the Democrats have wanted to do for years. And Trump is really stealing any of the positive aspects of any of the Democratic playbook. Although what I really prefer is that Trump eliminate the income tax altogether. I hate the federal government coming in and stealing money. Trump's also said he's going to cut prescription drug prices by as much as 80%. It's coming out today more like 60%. But again, that's going to be a big blow to Big Pharma. And I would like to see Trump also get these ads for Big Pharma off television or off the internet, because what those ads do is not sell these drugs that are being advertised, but it puts money in the hands of broadcasters to continue them not reporting anything negative to Big Pharma. That's the whole reason you're seeing all these songs and dances about these new drugs. At the end, they tell you all the things that can go wrong with the new drugs. Okay, so other thing, Hamas is going to release this Israeli-American hostage from Gaza, which is good, but they're not yet releasing the 25 or so hostages that may yet be alive from the October 7th attack against the Jews in Israel. Okay, now that's going to be, I think, if they do not do this, Trump is going to allow and encourage Netanyahu to go in and level Gaza. So there's not a two-story building standing. Just flatten it, make it uninhabitable. Trump is in discussions with Netanyahu about the United States administering Gaza, which I think we might actually do. And I think we're seeing Trump taking a whole new vision of the Middle East. Okay, so Trump just tweeted today. He said, "I will bring lasting peace to the Middle East, including Syria and Libya. I'm also very impressed with the vision of a Trump Tower in Damascus. Big things are coming." And he did hashtag Middle East peace, hashtag Trump Tower. Well, then he mentioned Libya because we have been encouraging the Trump administration to appoint Philip Escaravage to be special envoy to Libya. Philip and I have worked together now going back to about 2015 under Obama's administration when Hillary was running guns through Libya and Obama decided to have Gaddafi executed because Gaddafi was going to create the gold dinar, a gold-backed coin back then, and he was also going to create the African Union be a force. Well, that was opposed to the globalists who pull Obama's strings. And by the way, with the birthright citizenship going to be debated again by the Supreme Court, I want to remind everybody that we did find the birth certificate from which Obama's was copied. I found it in Hawaii. a woman came and gave it to me. And we had Sheriff Arpaio doing a forensic analysis, and it's clear that Obama's birth certificate was copied from the birth certificate we had that was an actual one at the same era as Obama's, but Obama's birth certificate is clearly a fake. Of course, the mainstream media won't report that, just like they're also telling you that Lee Harvey Oswald shot John Kennedy and that the Tonkin Gulf incident was really an attack by the Vietnamese Navy on a U.S. Navy ship, which was complete nonsense, even at the time, 1965, but it got us into the Vietnam War. And Lyndon Johnson needed a false flag to do that, and he got one, or created one. Okay, so I think we're seeing that the Middle East is going to change dramatically. And Philip Escaravage has been in the Middle East for many, many years. He's well known in Libya. He can bring the two governments together and get peace there, and it's going to be a very positive development. The other thing we're working on is this port in Chile, Copia E Port. It's Copia Port-E, deepwater port in Chile that the Communist Party in China has a memorandum of understanding to buy. They're buying it from my co-author, who is Todd Callender, who runs an insurance investment fund out of Nassau in the Caribbean. Okay, now Todd Callender has been developing this port and getting it ready, doing all the legal work so the port can be developed. And China wants it as their landing spot for the Belt and Road Initiative in South America. China also wants to have a bi-ocean corridor built between the Atlantic and the Pacific that will end in this port in Chile. Now, if China gets that kind of access to agriculture coming out of Argentina and rare earth minerals like lithium coming out of Chile, China's going to have a lockhold on southern South America that's going to be hard to break. And when Trump is going after the Panama Canal, we should not allow China to just grab this port. So we're urging the Trump administration, will be doing more on that today, to take seriously that this Copia Port E in Chile has got to be negotiated so the United States can get the rights to develop that port. It'll be developed by private companies, but the U.S. needs to be negotiating with the Chilean government in order to position ourselves to have this key port in South America, the tip of South America, under U.S. control. The port can accommodate U.S. Navy vessels. Now, the whole concept here, and I want to end with this, is that you've got a hemisphere-wide vision by Donald Trump of the Monroe Doctrine. Wants to go up into Canada and Greenland, be part of the United States one way or the other. Well, let's extend that all the way down from the Arctic to the Antarctic by getting control of this port in Chile. We covered a lot of news today. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Today it is Monday, May 12th, 2025. Looks like it's going to be a very, very interesting week coming up. And in the end, God always wins. God's going to win here too. We're doing these podcasts every weekday. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow. God bless.